Hi, everyone. Good evening. This is Deidre with Are You a CPS Victim Like Me? I am your host this evening, and I have a guest joining me that's going to be sharing her story of how she has been affected by CPS. A little bit about my show. I do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and I do it under an attorney in Southern California, Vincent W. Davis, who is fighting CPS. And I myself was a parent that went through a CPS case myself, and I'm still fighting to hope to get my boys back home sometime very soon here. And I continue to do this show for other parents or anybody for that matter that has been affected by CPS to come on and share their story, how they've been affected, and to hopefully one day maybe get the word out to parents, hopefully that, CPS is not maybe who you think they are and can hopefully maybe save your children from being removed from you or, potentially being adopted out because that is ultimately what I feel like their goal is at the end of the day. So, again, anybody interested in wanting to be a guest on any of my future shows, you can always call into the number on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, the 888 number, and my producer, Grace, can get you set up and scheduled for one of my future shows, and you can come on and share your story. And in the meantime, I am going to go ahead and turn over the floor to my guest, and she's going to introduce herself and share with you how CPS has affected her in her life. So, Lynn, if you want to go ahead and start.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I live in Maine. Um, Back in October of 2023, we had our first visit with CPS on the 4th, and they came in and told us of allegations that my oldest daughter had made. Um, she specifically did it towards my husband only at that time. Um, and then they made my husband leave where we were staying at the moment, told him if he didn't leave or if the girls and I didn't leave, they were going to take the kids at that moment. Um, and then they also made me sign a safety plan saying that if I didn't sign that, they would also take the children from me. So I signed that, and then I had to take a leave of absence from work because of everything that was going on. And then on October 10th, we had gone to our first family team meeting. We were told there were going to be no like police officers or anything at this family team meeting because it was just for the family and the CPS workers. But yet there was a state detective there. Um,
Can I
and
pause you and ask you? Can I pause you and ask you what the allegation was that your daughter made against your husband?
SA.
And is that daughter of yours also your husband's daughter?
No.
It's his stepdaughter.
Yes.
Have they always had a good relationship for the most part, from what you've noticed? I mean, was this something
Yes.
like out of the blue that kind of came about, or
It just came like out of nowhere. Like she had gone. I had let her go up to my aunt's because she was homeschooled to be able to take
Mhm.
driver's ed because it was cheaper up that way than it is down where I am. And
Mhm.
my aunt was up for the summer at her camp, so it worked. And then all of a sudden, we get a call, well, not a call, a visit on October 4th telling us this stuff.
Wow. Okay, so go ahead and continue. So you have this team meeting, and you were told no officers were going to show up, but then you get there, and there's a detective there.
Yes. And then this is when they decided, because I know my child and she does have mental health problems. She was, you know, admitted to a mental health facility for threatening to harm herself because she got caught in the bathroom at school that previous year with another girl. So we
Mm.
brought her to be evaluated at the hospital, and then she was placed at a psychiatric facility. She was there for like 4 to 5 days, and then they felt it was okay for her to come home. But she was also diagnosed with several mental health problems. So it was, and a lot of it stemmed from something that happened with my biological father, who I did not grow up with. So I didn't know what he was like. And
Mm.
then, because he also happened to do stuff to my other two oldest children, he was never around my youngest because she was just a baby when all of this came out. And but then my where was I? After that team meeting, they decided they were going to take the kids because they didn't think I could keep them safe, which my husband wasn't even at the team meeting. He wasn't anywhere near where I was. I didn't even know where he was at the time because he had to find a place to go with
So
no money.
you did separate yourself though from your husband, like to, comply
Yes,
with CPS, and they still decided to take the kids
yes,
at this team meeting?
because
Wow.
they thought I could not keep them safe. They didn't
Wow.
even try any other like services to help with that. I had to go. I was going to stay with my in-laws because they were the only people I had to stay with at the time. And then I
Mm.
transferred back down to where I was working before we left initially, and started working back after that 30-day leave I had. But they just had the police officers come pick up because the family team meeting was like an hour and a half to 2 hours away from where I lived. And they had the
Mhm.
cops come forcibly remove my children from the house we were staying at. They would not show anybody a court order or a warrant stating they had the right to come pick the kids up. Then 2 days later is when I got a copy of the PPO. That's when the investigative caseworker came out to talk to me about it and find out where I would like the children placed. And then, like a couple of hours later, my 14-year-old daughter, who was like 13 at the time, she started threatening to possibly kill herself if her and her sister were not brought back home. So they brought
And
her
this
to
is
be
the daughter that
evaluated.
was this the daughter that actually started these allegations?
No, this was the my third oldest. I have two with my husband and two with my ex-husband.
Okay, so
So
the daughter that actually brought up these allegations is your oldest, or
my second oldest child.
got it. Okay.
My my oldest child was already an adult at this time.
Okay, makes sense.
Uh, and
So they removed
then
3 children when they removed them, correct?
yes, except the third one, well, the oldest one that they had removed was up at my aunt's at the time. She was not in the house with me.
Oh, that's
So
weird.
she
So
was
the
up.
daughter that actually kind of started all of this was technically not even removed when all of this happened?
No, she was up at my aunt's house, so they just left her at my aunt's.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's
She
even more
wasn't even.
crazy. So they come and take the
She
2
was.
youngest ones that technically. Yeah, wow.
Yep. Um, and then I had a disclosure from my 13-year-old stating that her older sister, which is the one that started all of this, said said that her oldest sister had choked her repeatedly and she didn't feel safe around her. So my 14-year-old was in a mental health facility after she got evaluated from her telling the caseworker that if she did not get brought home, she was probably going to kill herself. So she was there for like 3, almost 4 weeks. And then when she got released, instead of putting her in one of the names I gave them while they were waiting for my friend to make the decision on if they were going to take her or not, they placed her in the same home as her older sister after I told them
Wow.
not to put her there.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was
So,
there for 6 to 7 days.
and this was in what year? I'm sorry, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. And then in the meantime, was CPS telling you or your husband like anything that you were supposed to be doing, like as far as services or classes or anything like that?
Yeah. Yes. They had told me at not that first team meeting, but we had gone to, I had another team meeting. It was like around the 24th or somewhere in there of October of 2023. And they had said
Mm-hmm.
I needed to go to counseling, which I actually was able to get into counseling within a month after, because I had called when they first took the kids and tried to get into
Mm-hmm.
counseling and to get into the doctor's office to get back on my medication. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
they had told me I needed to go. Well, I needed to leave Vinny if I wanted to get the kids back, which is my husband. Um, then they
Mm-hmm.
told me, uh, what else did they need? Parenting classes, a safe and stable house away from dangerous individuals is exactly what they put on it.
Was the SA ever really like founded, or I don't know the correct terminology for that, but was it ever like proven the allegation of it, or?
Not to a good extent because what they never even showed me anything that they had before they decided they were going to take the kids. They just told me, "Oh, this happened." So did that come from my daughter or did that come from you?
Exactly.
And then at this second family team meeting, that's when they showed me what looks like a copy and pasted Word document of like thousands of pages of text, well, what is it, Facebook text messages between the two of them, supposedly.
Between who?
And my husband and my oldest daughter.
Were they valid text messages, like back and forth?
They have not been, they have not been substantiated. They
Mm.
can't even be proven to actually be 100% real because they bounced through a whole bunch of hands before they even got into like where they belonged.
Mm.
And then there's also like they had some screenshots, but when you look at the screenshots, if you zoom in, it's so pixelated and it looks like there's like these lines out around it, like it's been erased and something's been typed over the top of it.
Uh-huh.
So it's and if I
I
look
mean,
at
what were
my
they
own,
saying though? What were they saying though was going on in these messages between your husband and your daughter, supposedly?
that they were talking about sexual stuff or marijuana and drinking and like
Just
they read
inappropriate
some,
stuff that they were, yeah.
yeah, and then they were
Was your
trying to
husband ever
read
criminally charged?
He he got criminally charged in August of 2020, not August, April of 2024 for it. And
Wow.
then he was arrested. He was in jail for about 30 days on that one. They released him on a $50,000 a surety bail. He was allowed to go to work, to doctor's appointments, counseling, and to court hearings. And
And
then
no
they
visitation
rearrested.
with any of the kids?
Nope. They blatantly denied it before that. Like they would
What
not
about
even let
yourself?
him.
Were you able to visit with any of your kids?
Yes, I have had somewhat constant visitations with our youngest, who's 5 years old. But something happened between that 6 to 7 days that my 14-year-old was with her sister and the time that she got
Mhm.
moved to my friend's house. Because then, like 3 weeks after she was released from the hospital, is when we found out she wanted absolutely nothing to do with us.
Oh, no. And I'm assuming the daughter that kind of brought on these allegations, you haven't really had a relationship with and neither since all this started, or
No,
have you?
nope, I have not.
So you've never really gotten to talk to your daughter yourself ever since all of this started to try and, like, get an understanding of it or hear her side or anything like that?
Nope. I was told she also didn't want to talk to me
Wow.
either, but this was by the person that went to CPS about what she was told. And in some of the records from like the police officer when she was doing her interviews, she, like, this is my cousin's wife, she out and said, I was talking to my daughter about what had happened with her grandfather, which is my father, and I asked her if anyone else has touched her like he has, like Vinny. So she was leading her into it. And then today
Do
she
you
just
think the
said,
aunt that she went to go stay with maybe had something to do with all of this?
hmm?
Do you think the
What was that?
aunt that she went to go stay with when all of this kind of started, do you think she has something to do
Um,
with all of this maybe?
I don't know how much she had to do with it because my now she's 18, but my at the time 16-year-old daughter, she had gone from my aunt's house where they had a dinner party, and then she went with my cousin and his wife to stay over there for the night, and they had some kind of conversation in the car, according to her today. However, in all the police reports or whatever, it said she was curled up on a chair or a couch and in like some kind of non-talkative, like manic kind of state. And then she asked her the question. But today she said they were in the car
Mm,
talking, and
wow. So where
yeah,
does your case stand as of, like, right now?
we were currently in day one of a 2-day TPR hearing.
Oh, no.
So yeah, and my husband's
So
case is
they're trying
still,
to terminate your rights for all of your kids? Well, I mean, 2 of them are what now, of age?
yeah, two of them are both over 18. So, and then the other two
Now
are
where is
14
your
and
youngest daughter staying?
with a with some foster parents who I don't know who they are because they had the judge make them confidential. So I don't even
And
know
are they
exactly.
wanting to adopt your child?
I don't know if she is or they are or not. They have only had her for the last, like, what's today? They've had her for about a month now. This is her fourth foster home.
Where was she before that? Oh my
In
gosh.
a, yeah,
And how
they
old is
had
she?
put her in another 5. She was in a foster home
Why has she
before
been in
this
so many
one.
different foster homes?
The first foster placement she was with was the one she was put in with her older sister, and then we
Mhm.
were making a fuss because she was always coming in with like bruises and stuff on her. So they moved her. And then the next foster home she was in, she was actually there for a year when they were under the assumption she was only going to be there for a few months. So they requested that she be removed after that year and placed with a different set of foster parents. Then she was placed with another set of foster parents. She was there 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and they refused to transport her to any of the visits whatsoever. They would not do it. So I did not see her for like 31 days. I missed her fifth birthday with her and everything. So, and
Wow.
then they finally got her moved, and CPS was trying to say, oh, but the visit place has reached out to you at the beginning of, what was it, April. And I'm like, no, they didn't. The last time I heard from them was the very last day in March. And I have proof of that. And most of the people there would rather text than call anyway. So,
But now, are you
like
still
the
living
scheduling
with
coordinator
your
call.
husband?
Currently, no, because he was also rearrested on April 2nd, and they will not allow him to have bail because he was using his free speech on Facebook about the corruption. And that was part of his bail conditions when he was released in October, when they thought he was violating his bail for working. So they falsely arrested him
So
for working in October.
he wasn't allowed to speak about the case or do anything like that. And then they found out he was talking about it on Facebook. So they rearrested him and now they won't let him out on bail.
Yes.
So how long is he in there?
He's been in there since April 2nd, and his attorney has actually filed a motion for a demand for a speedy trial, but he said it could take 6 months to a year. I don't know how that's a speedy trial, but
And he's facing, I know, really. And he's facing then obviously the allegations of the SA is what I'm assuming.
yes.
And then in the meantime, then I hate to like ask it in this kind of way, but if he's in jail, how do they think that you're going to be able to bring your children around him if he's not even out of jail? I mean, why wouldn't they be still trying to see if the children can be returned home to you then?
I don't know. They had already done the cease reunification for the both of us back in the fall of last year because I didn't agree with some of the stuff that they were trying to get me to do, and some of it was going to be impossible for me to do because, they expect you to hold it down a job and everything else, and with all these other services they have you do. And it's with my job, I have to be able to know like a couple weeks in advance so I can actually switch things around. But she's, really, my
Yeah,
boss
they
is
just
really,
expect you to like be able to go anywhere and everywhere at any second of any day. And it's like, they just basically set you up for failure is the way I feel like. You know what I mean? They
yeah,
just want to throw things at you. They could say you're done with counseling, but then all of a sudden, oh, we need you to see another counselor for another 12 weeks. And you're like, oh my gosh, I already completed the 12 weeks that you assigned me. It's like, even with my situation,
Yeah,
my
I was in
visitations,
counseling.
they
I was
never
in
got
counseling for
liberalized
a year
from
and a half.
my husband went through 3 different successful 16-week sessions of counseling to where each therapist, had nothing but positive remarks to say, how much he's learned and how much he's practicing it on a daily basis. But it was just like, I feel like, Mr. Davis, the attorney that I do these shows under, they already have their narrative written when your kids are removed. You know what I mean? And it's almost like, as much as you want to fight, it's almost like the end result is already made up in their mind, the way I feel. And unless you can afford to hire your own private counsel that, is skilled in CPS and knows how to fight them, I really feel like almost every parent or every situation is set for failure. I truly
Right.
feel that way. So you said you're in day 2 of TPR, meaning, do you have, I'm assuming, a court appointed attorney then
Yes.
representing you?
And
And
my
I'm
court
assuming they're
appointed
doing
attorney
nothing.
and my husband's court appointed attorney are working together, actually.
And
Both
that's a
of
good
our
thing, I'm
attorneys are
assuming.
working together. Yes, because they've come up with, their game plan of what they're going to do, and they're definitely, just in case things don't go right, they're setting it up good for the appeal process too.
An appeal. So you have no
Yes.
idea if, like, let's say worst case scenario, you your rights are terminated, even of your youngest daughter is even wanting to adopt, or what would happen with her right now?
We were looking into placement with my sister-in-law, who lives like 40 minutes away from where I am, and
Uh-huh.
they had said they wouldn't place her there when we first mentioned it because she also supports her brother and doesn't believe the allegations, yet he was on house arrest. He couldn't go anywhere, so how would he get over there to see her? He was stuck to the house.
It's almost like they're declining you any kind of other option before it's even given a shot. You know what I mean? It's like, how can they predict the future?
Right.
You know what I mean? Anybody can say that they're not going to bring a child around the relative, but really, how can they really know for sure whether or not that relative is going to break and buckle and let the child see them, or if they're really going to stick to their grounds and be like, no, in order for this child to stay with family, they can't
And
predict the future and
she has
say what
her
someone's
own
really going
child
to
who
do.
right now, yeah, and right now she has her own child who turns 16 tomorrow that she has to worry about. So she would not have like risked her child for that.
Yeah.
And she stated that to them.
Wow.
And then they were trying to
So,
give other reasons as
go
to
ahead.
why she couldn't have her. They were trying to make other reasons
So
why
you're
she
going through
couldn't
this.
have her.
How long are they expecting your your TPR hearing to last for?
The judge that is presiding over it, he made it so everything would be done by 3 o'clock today because he had an appointment. So he made it at the same thing for tomorrow, 3 o'clock tomorrow. So at 3 p.m. Eastern
Wait,
time
but
tomorrow, it'll be over.
Your husband's still in jail.
Yes. They had him transferred up there so he could be a part of the TPR hearing. But right now he's up in a different county jail, and where he's on a writ to be able to be transferred up there, he can't do anything but sit there and read the newspaper, I guess. They won't let him call anybody or anything.
And have you been able to talk to your husband at all since he's been in jail the second time?
Yes, I've been able to talk to him. He calls me, except for during this 2 day thing. He calls me usually twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And then I'll go down and have the
How
40-minute visit with him through glass on Friday night.
how's he holding up?
It's destroying him. He's emotionally drained and he just feels like giving up.
Wow. But they're still investigating or going forward with like the sexual or the SA, right? Meaning he hasn't really been physically charged with it yet, right?
Yeah, he has not
Or
been
has he?
convicted. He has charges against him. He's just not convicted.
And
And
they don't think that
from
it's going
what,
to be finished for another maybe 6 months to a year?
yeah, and
Wow.
the way they got the indictment to charge him was with those unsubstantiated text Facebook messages or whatever they are. So they weren't even substantiated to prove that they were real or not when they were brought to the grand jury for indictment.
And like I think I asked you earlier, the daughter that kind of brought all of this about, you really haven't talked to her at all since this all started to let her know what it is that she's really kind of causing, if it's really not true at the end, like, doesn't really care.
Nope, she doesn't seem to really care because the person who she was with that actually called this in was the one that responded to me when I messaged her to ask her what was going on. She took her phone and messaged her through her phone and told me to leave her alone and that she wanted nothing to do with me.
Wow. And she still has stayed with this aunt ever since all of this has started.
No, she was. She actually went from my aunt's because my aunt went back to California because that's where she actually lives. She only comes to Maine for the summer months, and went to my cousin's house, and with his wife, and she was staying there until it was like March or April of 2024 because they said they couldn't take care of her anymore and they would only keep her there until she could go to Job Corps. And then I found out
And this all
after
really just
she turned
like
18.
out of nowhere with your daughter.
Yes, it just came out of nowhere with her. Like she didn't say
Wow.
anything. She didn't act like anything was wrong. She was close as could be to me, just like with my other two daughters. And then, yeah,
Does
forgot
she
where I
keep in
was.
contact with any of your other daughters?
Nope. My 14-year-old does not want to talk to her at all. Actually, she doesn't want to talk to anybody from what I've heard. She's cut contact off with everybody except for my friend and the people that live in her house. And they
And
won't
the
allow
daughter
her
that
to talk
started
to
all
my
this,
5-year-old.
and the daughter that started all this is now 18, correct?
Yes. And as soon as she turned 18, the day she turned 18, actually, I was told by my own mother that she dropped out of Job Corps. And then I guess, I don't know where she went to live. I'm assuming somewhere with the boyfriend she had. Um, and then, and now we don't know where she is. We have no idea where she is. But
Oh,
last I knew, she was pregnant.
wow. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like this daughter of yours that goes away for a summer, kind of starts all of this commotion, never really comes home, or I feel like is kind of affected by it in her own way, but then get your other two daughters stripped away from their home and going through all this trauma, and now you're basically facing losing your rights to them, and yet this other daughter that kind of brought all this to be and is now technically an adult is leaving your other two children to, I think, like basically mourn all of what she kind of brought to be.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of
pretty
like one of
much.
those situations where even though I feel like CPS is still the corruption in it all, it's almost like your daughter kind of like woke up the sleeping monster or whatever, but then like just let your other daughters just, you know, go through all the trauma of it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, and then your other two daughters
Yeah.
obviously have never, you know, said anything of say or anything like that, right?
Nope. Never. So
Wow.
it's just, yeah,
Well, I
been
mean,
crazy.
what are your attorneys kind of like hoping? I mean, are they thinking it might go in your favor, or what is it looking like after the first day today? Or you can't really tell yet.
I can't really tell. I just know that pretty much everybody they put on that stand either didn't remember, quote unquote, anything that
Uh-huh.
they talked about with Trinity, yeah, excuse me, with my oldest daughter, not my middle
Mhm.
daughter, my oldest daughter. They just remembered that, yes, we had an interview with her. And I need to have a refresher of what this was about because, it was over a year ago.
Wow.
Um, so they they're just like, oh yes, 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 that was what we were talking about because she had a CAC video done and a CAC interview and all that stuff, and in that video there was but even though this person attested and said, to my knowledge, it has not been altered in any way. I've seen that video because it was part of the criminal side, so it was in his share file and he was able to view it, and I've seen it, and there's a lot of spots where it like might skip like a second, maybe 2 seconds, but then there's some spots that skip like 5, 10, 15 seconds, and then it comes back like it's been altered in some kind of way.
Now, explain for the viewers because I don't think I even know. But what is a CAC video?
Children's Advocacy Center. It's
Oh,
where they
okay.
have a
They were
forensic,
interviewing the child.
yep, a forensic interview done, yep.
Wow. And now
And
your poor 5-year-old was what? Only like 1 or 2 when all this started.
she was 3, like three and a
So
half. And then,
she's been the one that's
yeah,
been affected the most, and she's not even knowing probably still why she's not at home, right?
right, she has no idea why she can't be with her mommy or any of her family. She's only seen me. I've had, at least with the placement she was with for that year, they would do like if there was bad weather or like a holiday, so we couldn't have a physical visit, they would actually do a video visit so we could talk and at least have some kind of a visit. When we first started doing it, she had she had them cut really short for visits because she was only like 4.
Yeah.
So she had
She's
the
like,
attention
I
span
don't
of
get
40.
this. Exactly.
But as time progressed and we had a few more of them, the visits could last at least 30 minutes. And there would be times where she would even ask to see her daddy, and I could not let her see him because CPS would take my visits away if I did. So I
Yeah.
would let her
So
see
your
like the
husband
other
hasn't seen
family that
your
was in
daughter
town.
since this started?
Nope.
Sorry, I keep talking over you. Wow. Oh my
But
gosh.
I did let her see, like her nana and whoever else might have been in the house at the time. I would let them talk to her for like a couple of minutes because I didn't want to get in trouble for her talking to everybody else and not actually doing, being on the video visit with me like it was supposed to be. But she did get to see them
Yeah.
once in a while, video visits. But no one told me at all
Gosh.
from the start of this that if you want someone else to come to the visits with you, you have to get them approved. I was never told that. So I did not know I could ask to
Where
have,
were your
say,
visits
my
at?
mother. They were at it's called community care. It's some of them were. It first started in like Augusta, and then when she got moved to the second placement, it went to Waterville, which added another like 30 minutes travel time for me. And then they had tried, when they moved her from their house, it was going to be another like 30 minutes added on to that if they were going to cooperate, which they didn't. So she got moved back to the Augusta area somewhere. And now she's back at the Augusta visit place, which is like
Now,
almost a 2-hour
who
drive
would
for me.
supervise the visit?
It's the they're
Like the
licensed.
center?
Yeah, it's a center. They have different licensed. I think they're LS something. I don't know. Licensed something. A licensed care worker of
Yeah.
some kind.
Well, see, in the beginning of my case, because it was right when COVID happened, I didn't realize this, but I kind of learned the hard way in the fact of COVID was happening right when my case started. So when I would have my visits, I would get to, um, like go to the park with them, or sometimes if it was raining, I'd take it to the bowling alley, or, we were just kind of getting creative. Like we'd go to an indoor jump place. But then little did I know, once kind of COVID started opening up places and like public places were becoming, okay to be in, then that's when I got that hard phone call of stating, yeah, your visits will now start to proceed at the visitation center. And I'm like, wait, why? What happened? And they're like, well, the only reasons why you have been able to have all your visits at all these different places is because the visitation center was actually closed because of COVID. And so in reality, it was like, because then they felt like we were kind of being punished because now we're like stuck in this building, and having all these, like you said, licensed people be the supervisors, where before it would be like, for my youngest, it would be the actual foster parents. And then when I would have my visit with all three of my kids, it would be like just somebody from the county that would come out. But yeah, I mean, we had to learn that the hard way because, we didn't realize that we were actually having it good in the beginning, because of COVID. But man, those visitation centers, I mean, as depressing as they are, I mean, they used to laugh at me. I used to come like with a wagon, and then I'd have things like hanging. I mean, I used to bring the kids Xbox and hook it up to the TV. I mean, I used to get so creative because, again, you're like in this office looking building for 4 hours. I mean, the kids barely could go outside, just like in this little grass area. I mean, what are they going to do there? So, I mean, the things that I would have to do to get creative, I mean, just to make it interesting and be fun. But it was just, again, it's like to think after all those, I think it was like 2.5 years my case went on, that they never liberalized, my visits. Meaning, again, they never wanted me to think that I was really going to get my kids back because when my case opened, I was 8 months pregnant. And little did I know that when I gave birth, because I now have an open case, they immediately took my youngest from the hospital and they placed him, in a foster home that the couple couldn't have kids of their own, ironically. And this was their first rodeo. They literally went into this to adopt, meaning foster to adopt. And they just got so lucky to be handed my beautiful, healthy baby boy at 1 month old because he went to an emergency placement right out of the hospital. And then when they found this couple, he went with them. But yeah, little did I know they played me just as much as CPS did. And, they always said, be here for you and do whatever we can to reunite you, with your child as soon as possible. And it was like all the opposite unfolded when it got closer to that TPR hearing, when now they're basically telling us to, mutually come up with a post adoption agreement contract, as if like I did lose my rights, what would it be like? And then that's when they let the can out the bag, basically stating that I would be so lucky if I got to see my child once a year after it. I'm thinking, once a year? I was thinking like at least 4 times a month. Like, what do you mean? And then next thing you know, they're showing up with their own lawyer and telling, you know, that they needed to hurry up the case along to keep their son. And I mean, it was just a nightmare. But again, now looking back and like knowing everything that I've learned after all these years, I really feel like my case really only existed because they wanted my youngest. And that's what they got, and my mom took my 2 older boys, and you would think that that would be a perfect scenario, but it's almost the exact opposite. I've lost all my family. I don't talk to my mom. I haven't talked to my mom. She's now addicted to the money that she gets from my 2 older boys. And she was in the process of buying a house when my case started, and she had to put that on hold until our case closed. And then once it did, and she was the legal guardian, she was allowed to then move to Vegas and retire. So then she moved my boys out of state. So it's just been an uphill battle, but I've been doing my best to go out there once a month, every month, to try and see them. And I'm in the process of hopefully um, getting ready to file a motion with the courts to terminate the guardianship. But, it's like one of those situations where you're so scared to do it because you feel like you only have this one shot. And at the same time, as more time goes on, you're like, now the judge is going to look at you and be like, why did you wait this long? Or, I mean, it's just the children are what suffer the most at the end of the day, but yet these are the people that are supposed to be protecting the children. It makes just no sense to us parents that are always sitting back and wondering, like, is this really going on in America every day? How are you coping with, not even physically by your side? It just must be the hardest thing on top of everything else, I'm assuming, correct? I lose you, Lynn? I think you're frozen. Can you hear me? Grace, did I lose Lynn, or is it me? Maybe she's coming back on. We'll give her a couple minutes here. But again, for any listeners that have been watching, if you are interested in becoming, we only have about 10 minutes left. So sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, my internet just kind
I'm
of
like,
went
you're not moving
haywire
your
for a
mouth. What happened? So I don't know what last part you heard me ranting and raving, but I was kind of asking, how are you coping or hanging in there now that, unfortunately, Vinny has been rearrested? I mean, are you able to any kind of support system for yourself?
I mean, I've got most just basically my mother-in-law, because my mother's not much of a support. Because when we found out what happened with my 3 oldest and my biological father, she had gotten back together with him when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. So I'd already had my son. Um, and we once we found out what had happened with 2 out of the 3, because the oldest daughter didn't disclose anything until after we moved away from there, that he actually did do stuff to her, that she just didn't believe any of the kids. And I'm like, well, 2 out of 3 of them are saying he did stuff to them. And that's one of the reasons, even though I didn't know it at the time, because my son, he was a big old gamer, so I figured he just didn't want to go over because they didn't have a gaming system. But she didn't back them up at all, and she flipped out at me and started calling me all kinds of names and stuff. So I just cut off ties with her for quite a while, probably at least
Mhm.
6 months to a year. And then we talked for a little while, and it was more just like now she just basically says good morning and good night. And once in a while, she'll tell me what she heard from somewhere. I don't know where, but but I've basically just got my in-laws as a support because all of my other family, once this whole thing started, basically turned their back on me,
I
saying that
know.
they believe
And I think
I
that's got to
knew
be the world
everything.
like worst thing.
Yep.
And it's like that typical like feeling they're saying. I mean, I have to say that I'm guilty myself because, before this ever happened to me, if I found out that, somebody was, dealing with CPS, I would most likely probably think, well, they give something for them to come into their lives. But, for your own family, meaning the people that you've grown up around, to really like just completely turn their backs on you and like make it almost seem like they don't even know who you are type of thing, just because CPS is, saying whatever it is that they're saying is like, you know, I think just the ultimate like crusher of it all, But then again, I think CPS does a lot of like, tactics like they do to where they almost like scare your family members, almost like as if they were to stay, supportive of you or in contact with you, they're afraid of like what CPS might do to them type of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like the whole corruption of it all is just,
Yeah.
disgusting, honestly.
And
But
this same
we have
oldest
about 5 minutes
daughter,
left here. So would you like, go ahead. Sorry.
that same oldest
Your
daughter
daughter, what?
tried to, my oldest daughter, she tried to say that at one point in time I had picked up a 2x4 and hit her in the face with it. I don't have the strength to pick up a 2x4 and swing it at anybody. I have strength, but I don't have that much strength. And
And
to
nobody from
say that,
CPS really ever took into consideration, like you said, about her mental health and everything like
no,
that.
I tried to tell them that, she was in a mental health hospital for what had happened at school, and the, I didn't know exactly what she had been diagnosed with because they didn't send home the records at that time. They just put her on some medications to help, and she wouldn't even take her medicine, so it wasn't really helping. But
Wow.
she had, yeah, she's got all kinds of, like, they diagnosed her as bipolar, PTSD, um, major depressive disorder with a possibility of hypomania.
Oh.
So,
And they don't think
yeah,
any of that could have brought on what she, alleged against your husband,
right? I mean, I've researched some of it, and it specifically states that some of these, when they coexist with each other, can cause false memories. Like, there'd be her real memories, but it could have like false, like, people or places. It's just a memory that pops in her head.
Or even,
But
what if she was like confusing it with your actual, what is it, your mom's husband or your father, the
my,
one that did the SA?
yes,
What if she was
like,
confusing it with that person and then thinking it was your husband?
and if she was in a manic state at the time that she was talking to her, she could have confused it. And now she probably believes it's completely real because it was ingrained in her
Wow.
head at the time of her mental breakdown or whatever she was having at the moment. Because she was talking to me
Wow.
how she couldn't wait
Well,
until she
I
came
know that
home so she could go driving. So,
she was all over the place.
yeah,
Wow.
all happy to have me take her out
Well, I would
driving once she
love
got
to
a
hear
permit.
a follow-up. Wow. Well, I would love to hear a follow-up, and I'm sure it ends up, happening. And if you want to come back on, maybe next week or the following to let all of us know what ends up happening. And, if you talk to Vinny, because, I'm also familiar with him from, the other shows on the other platforms with, Darren and Tiffany and such. And, I miss seeing his face, and he was a real good supporter as well as all of us other parents doing these shows. So if you talk to him, the next time, let him know that I'm definitely keeping him in my prayers. And, it goes the way that it should, for him in that sake, and that he's not in there for another 6 months to or a year. But, again, all of us parents that are going through these cases, I mean, it's just, I think the worst thing that could ever happen to a parent is, getting your children ripped away from you and then ending up, in adoption, and they're being raised from, these foreign people to them. It's like my youngest that got adopted, that wasn't even born when my case opened. He's being raised in a blonde haired, blue eyed Mormon, what I consider cult type household, and he's half black and half white. Now tell me how he's not going to be completely traumatized for the rest of his life. I mean, he's not only going to physically not fit in with his features, but I mean, I've just been watching. Nowadays, I feel like all I do is watch podcast after podcast. But again, I feel like that's the way that we get like the most realness out of what people are going through nowadays. But all these Mormon type of podcasts that I watch, like the Mormon stories, and even still exist, number one. But number two, to really think that like these people believe it, what they're believing in, it's like, wow. And then to think my child is being raised in this, and all because of CPS. You know what I mean? It's like they're protecting children in these examples. It's just so hard to believe, But anyways, I'm just ranting. But I thank you for coming on the show tonight. And again, like I said, if you want to come on again in the future, just reach out to me and we can have you come back on and keep your head up. And I know it's hard, and we can only keep fighting for our kids, because really they're the ones that need us to keep fighting the most, But
Nope, I have nothing else to say.
okay, well, tell Benny I really am thinking about him, and hope to see his face again here soon, back on the platform and sticking up for all of us parents, because we need all these parents that we can get to keep the
All
fight
right.
going. Okay, Lynn. Well, thank you for
You're
coming on
welcome.
again. Have a
Bye.
good night. Bye, everyone.
A vivid picture is encrypted in your mind as the critics get in line like they're witnessing a crime. But then you notice there's a shiver in your spine from the feelings of discontentment and bitterness combined. Heartbroken when you listen to the judges, another kid's innocence corrupted. And if you go against it, it's destructive. Consider this predicament the toughest, but we believe in a system fit for justice. Child Protective Services only pretends to save it. The one solution for this is worthy of instant praises. 30 years of experience with relentless cases. Allow me to introduce them. This is Vincent Davis, defending you when they don't think a mother fits the role. Is it juvenile dependency or government control? Observe the pain in their eyes. It's time for us to realize we are the last one.